Unwanted guest. The leaves had turned to vibrant shades of orange and red, and the air was crisp with unmistakable scents of autumn. Halloween was just around the corner, and the excitement buzzed through our quiet suburban neighborhood. This year, my friends and I were determined to make it the most memorable Halloween yet. We'd spent weeks planning our costumes and decorating our yards, but our biggest project was a haunted house we'd set up in my backyard. It was a massive undertaking with cobwebs, cardboard tombstones, and sound effects that we'd spent hours perfecting. As Halloween evening approached, the anticipation reached a fever pitch. My friends, Mike, Jenny, and Tom, arrived at my house in their spooky costumes. We couldn't wait to start scaring the neighborhood kids who would soon come trick-or-treating. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the streets filled with children in costumes and their parents, ready to embark on the annual candy hunt. We took our positions in the backyard, hidden behind sheets and cardboard cutouts, ready to jump out and send shivers down the spines of unsuspecting visitors. The first group of kids ventured into our yard, their eyes wide with excitement. The haunted house was a hit, and our screams and surprises had them squealing and laughing. We were having a blast, reveling in our success. But as the night wore on, something changed. The atmosphere shifted, and our once jovial scares began to feel more real, more sinister. We noticed a bone-chilling sensation, as if we were being watched by something otherworldly. Our final group of trick-or-treaters for the night was a trio of teenagers who had dared each other to enter our haunted house. We sprang into action, hoping to give them the fright of their lives. But as they ventured deeper into the makeshift maze, their laughter turned to hushed whispers. I watched from behind the curtain as they reached a weird corner of the haunted house. Their expressions of fear were no longer exaggerated, they were genuine. I exchanged a nervous glance with my friends, wondering if maybe we'd gone too far. Suddenly, one of the teenagers, a girl in a witch costume, let out a piercing scream. The other two rushed to her side, with their faces pale white. We emerged from our hiding spots, apologizing profusely and assuring them it's just a Halloween prank. But the girl in the witch costume was inconsolable. She kept repeating that she'd seen something inside the haunted house, something that shouldn't have been there. Her friends tried to calm her down, but she couldn't stop crying. We offered to walk them home, but they declined, saying they just wanted to leave. As they hurried out of our yard, the girl turned to us one last time and whispered, "You have no idea what you unleashed." We were left bewildered and unsettled. Had we truly scared them that much, or was there something more to their reaction? We couldn't shake the feeling that there had been truth in that girl's eyes. As Halloween night drew to a close, the neighborhood grew quiet, and the autumn winds whispered secrets through the trees. My friends and I gathered in my living room, our laughter subdued, our minds haunted by the unsettling encounter. We may never know what the teenagers saw in our haunted house that night, but one thing was certain, and that was that we were never going to do it again. The abandoned hospital. Working at a haunted attraction during Halloween season had always been a thrilling experience for me. The adrenaline rush of scaring visitors and the camaraderie with my fellow actors and actresses made it one of my favorite traditions. Little did I know that this year's haunted attraction was turning into a real-life horror story. The set designers had done an incredible job creating a weird environment completed with flickering lights, rusty gurneys, and blood-splattered walls. Our job was to jump out at unsuspecting guests and give them a good scare. On Halloween night, the atmosphere was electric as we prepared for the evening's performance. My fellow actors and I donned their costumes, complete with bloody lab coats and surgical masks. We then took our positions in various rooms of the hospital. The haunted attraction opened its doors, and groups of visitors began to enter. The screams and laughter echoed through the corridors as we leaped out of dark corners, wielding fake surgical instruments and delivering our best performances. It was all in good fun, and the visitors seemed to be thoroughly enjoying themselves. As the night went on, I noticed something odd. One of our fellow actors, Sarah, who was playing a nurse in the same section, had been acting strangely. She seemed more aggressive than usual in her scares, often lunging at guests with an intensity that bordered on violence. I whispered to one of the other actors about Sarah's unusual behavior, and they agreed that something was off. We decided to talk to her during a break just to make sure everything was okay, but when we approached her, she seemed agitated and nervous. She admitted that she'd been feeling extremely stressed lately and not like herself. We encouraged her to take a breather, but she insisted on finishing her shift. As the night progressed, Sarah's behavior grew even more erratic. She was no longer just scaring guests, but genuinely frightening them. Visitors complained about feeling unsafe, and some even left the attraction prematurely. Our concerns deepened as Sarah's actions became increasingly unpredictable. She began to target specific guests, singling them out for more aggressive scares. It was as if she crossed a line and lost control of her character, like something else was possessing her. One particular incident left us all horrified. Sarah cornered a teenage boy, her surgical instrument prop dangerously close to his face. He was clearly terrified, and his screams were not someone enjoying a Halloween scare. It took several of us to intervene and pull her away. The attraction's management immediately called for Sarah to be removed from the cast for the night. She was escorted away, visibly shaken and apologetic. The night went on without further incidents, but the damage was already done. I always wondered what had happened to Sarah. Had the stress of performing in an environment pushed her over the edge? Or was it something behind the scenes taking control of her? Something more sinister than Halloween. Welcome to the Circus. Working at the Twisted Carnival haunted attraction during Halloween had always been a blast. I played the role of a sinister ringmaster, completed with a top hat, a red and black tailcoat, and a whip to crack for dramatic effect. It was all in good fun, and the scares were usually just theatrical. However, one Halloween night, our attraction took a dark turn. The night was chilly, with a crisp breeze that sent shivers down my spine as I prepared for my role. My fellow actors and I gathered backstage, reviewing our scripts and going over the plan for the evening. As the doors opened to the public, groups of eager visitors poured in, excited chatter filling the air. The atmosphere was electric as we led them through the darkened corridors of our carnival-themed maze. I was stationed in the freak show section of the attraction, where I would introduce them to a series of grotesque characters. The guests were in high spirits, jumping and laughing at the spooky antics, completely immersed in the carnival rides. As the night went on, I noticed a man in one of the groups who stood out. He wore a tattered trench coat, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, and he seemed fixated on me. I tried to shake off the unease and continue with my scripted lines, playing the part of the menacing ringmaster. But as the group moved deeper into the maze, I noticed the man separating from them, his eyes never leaving mine. It was as if he was studying me, his presence growing increasingly unsettling. I alerted the other actors about the suspicious guest, and we decided to keep an eye on him. We hoped it was just a case of someone enjoying the show a bit too much. However, our unease only deepened when we reached the climax of the maze, the Hall of Mirrors. The guest entered the dimly lit room filled with distorting mirrors, and I followed closely behind. Suddenly, the room went dark, and I heard the sound of shattering glass. Panic swept through the group as they stumbled in the dark. The emergency lights flickered to life, and I saw the true horror of the situation. The man in the trench coat had shattered several mirrors, creating a maze of broken glass that trapped the terrified guests. They were injured, disoriented, and trapped in a nightmarish labyrinth. I immediately radioed for help, but it took what felt like an eternity for the emergency crews to arrive and safely extract the guests. Miraculously, no one was seriously injured, but the experience had left everyone traumatized. The man in the trench coat had somehow vanished into the chaos, and the police were called to investigate the incident. It turned out he had a history of mental health issues and had been off his medication. His obsession with the haunted attraction had led to this horrifying and dangerous act, which should have been a night of scares and laughter, had turned into a real-life nightmare. A stark reminder that horror can take on many forms, even within the confines of a Halloween attraction.